Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, I'm good. Just got off a great meeting with the guys. I think it went well.
And gals.
It was very reflective mood, which kind of feeds into what we'll talk about in a minute, right?
Yep.
Because the reality is, we see the men in the movement, right, that we work with experience exponential shifts all the time. It's not, it's a common occurrence, and there's a reason and a pattern for it. And, not surprisingly, the guys on the team, they've set some goals for themselves this year, individually and us collectively, which require an exponential leap, which is great because there's a gap. And you're going to be doing training on that in the Facebook group, I think, this week. But there's a gap. And there is an opportunity as well. And I've got a great deal of confidence in who we have on the team, in our ability. Like I say, we've seen it happen, consistently. And we've experienced it too. So, yeah, it was a great meeting. I'm excited.
Yeah, it was a great meeting. And something I think it's really cool, just to let the guys know that are listening to this, is so we had an all hands meeting where we bring in everybody, and we have coaches and staff from all over the world, right? Literally being an international movement, especially when COVID wasn't here, we were traveling a lot, leading seminars and retreats. But you're getting everybody together. And one of the components that we do is we always, we do the typical everybody, hey, how you doing? But we do something that has a little bit more about reflection. And then we also do kind of a coaching exercise. How can we help everybody on the team get better? Because everybody that's there, Tim, as you know, is there because they want to be. They're there because they want to serve the men. Most everybody on the team are alumni. They're guys that have owned their own business and have left that business because going through the activation method or an alpha reset or the brotherhood or the inner circle or whatever it may be, one of our programs has changed their lives so dramatically that they have been called forward to give back. And it's really cool to, for me to look and see the guys that are on the screen and have seen some of their journeys, right? And we have 2 women that are involved, as well. And seeing them on there also is fantastic. And, they have a different perspective, right? They get to see they're involved in the movement we call the Powerful Man, because they also know what this does for the men that are out there. And that's why it's also cool to see the testimonials from some of the wives, that come through the program as well. Going in. Let me see if I can just switch this. There we go.
You know what? Whenever it pauses, it's always pause was actually okay. But whenever it pauses on me, it's always the most unflattering pause. Always.
Poor guys listening to this. We also obviously have a YouTube channel where this shows up. Should be putting a lot more time and effort into in 2021. So great feedback, guys. But we'll see. If guys are listening to this, my camera angle paused. And for those around the world that do any business, we've almost all done it on Zoom right these days. So I think everybody understands going through. But one of the things we want to talk about, Tim, is the other you, right, to these guys. And so, guys, what I want you to think about here for a second, is think about the man that you want to be, right? And I'm not going to go through the gap training here, but the man that you want to become, the husband you want to be, the businessman you strive to be, the father that you've always wanted to step into. And I want you to think about that guy for a minute here. And if you're listening to this in your place, you can pause. Please do, right? This is a coaching cue. Please pause this and really think about whatever category it is for you. So if your relationship is struggling right now, your marriage, then I want you to think about the husband that you want to be. I'm going to use that as my example here, Tim, for the guys. But you can use this in any aspect of your life. And I want you to think about that version of you, right? And so maybe it is the loving husband, the husband that you see in the movies that is doing all the things for his wife, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm going to invite you, first of all, to realize that guy doesn't exist, right? There's a version of you, though, that your wife is dying for. like literally dying inside for. And we hear this from the women of the men that go through the trainings, right? This is what they were before their man went through the activation method. And I've heard this from my wife, Tim, right? It literally, she was dying inside. I remember her saying, I wish I would have rather you physically beat me than have to go through the pain of seeing you not be the man that I knew you could be. Like,
Wow.
whoa. And for most guys, and I assume most guys, at least for me, I've always been raised, you never touch a woman, never raise a hand, respect. And so I would never even consider physically abusing a woman. However, to hear my wife tell me, I would rather you physically abuse me, hit me, whatever, than have to watch you not be the man that I know that you could be. Now, this was almost 10 years ago that we had that conversation when she said that. And it stopped me in my tracks. It stopped me in my tracks because I was trying to be somebody I wasn't. I was trying to be a nice guy. And there was a gap between where I was and who I was being and the man, the husband that I knew I could be. And so, guys, as you're thinking about this, I want you to invite you, what are those characteristics that that guy has? What are the attributes that that guy has? And to give you an example to drive this home a little clearer, right? A lot of us take on personas. So you take on a persona when you're in a sales call, right? You take on, maybe it's the Wolf of Wall Street, right? You're going to be Jordan Belfort, right? You're going to get on a sales call and you just crush it. And maybe it's when you're talking to your kids, you calm down, you take on, Will Smith's character or somebody, right? Somebody that's a little bit more playful and down to earth. And you take on these different personas. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is, again, using the idea of being a husband, the other guy, who is that persona that your wife is craving for? Who is that persona, that other guy that she knows you are, that you're just not being? What are the attributes that he has? Well, I can tell you some of them because they're universal. One is decisive, right? Are you being decisive in your life, in your marriage? Are you sitting on the fence? Another one of them, are you being bold? Are you being courageous? Are you taking action in your life? Not only in business, but also in other areas of your life. Are you taking action, or are you just talking the talk rather than walking the walk? Are you getting up and doing your alpha rise and shine every morning? Yeah, maybe you miss one or two, but consistently. Are you working out and taking care of your health? Not just for aesthetics, but sure, nobody wants to sleep with a marshmallow, right? But are you taking care of your health so you'll be around for a long time? Are you taking care of your health to show that you're a priority? Right? Are you taking care of you? Are you filling your cup, doing things that you love? Are you showing respect and admiration to your wife? And when I say respect, I think men and women show respect differently, right? So I think for men, respect's a big thing. Like respect's like in the top 3 for most guys. For women, respect can also be appreciation, love, but also taking care of finances, knowing that you'll catch her when she falls down, not if she falls down, because she's going to fall. That's the feminine energy. Feminine energy is wild. But that you're going to be strong there. You're going to be the lighthouse in the storm, standing strong against adversity, whatever may come. And that she knows she can just trust you. Now, do you possess those attributes? Now, we did an exercise with the team where I read off probably about 70, 80 attributes, long list. And I had each person pick out 1 to 3 attributes that they wish they had more of, right? Some said, I'd like to be more appreciative. Some said more bold. Some said inspirational. Some said organized. But for you guys, as you're listening to this, what attributes does the other you have? And Tim, what I know for me was when I sit back here and reflect, when I first got married and my wife and I were going through a tough time, right? The attributes that I left at the door, right? The other me, the man that she knew I could be, is I stopped being decisive in the relationship, right? I stopped being grateful in the relationship. I stopped taking massive action in the relationship. And I had these qualities in business, weren't an issue for me in business at all. But my marriage was different. It was like I took on a different persona when I came home. And not one I was happy about or proud about. I just didn't know how to change. There wasn't an activation method. I was effectively deactivated. This other guy that walked in the door, the other version of me 10 years ago, that walked in the door, wasn't somebody I was happy to be, wasn't somebody I was happy about, let alone my wife. I mean, it's hard for me to expect her to love me when I didn't love myself. The version of myself I was becoming, I was trying to be a nice guy. I was trying to find a way to make it work. But I didn't have this reflective exercise to go through and realize the attributes. What attributes do my wife really want? And a lot of these attributes that I found for me that my wife really wanted, these are things that we teach within the Powerful Man. What does it mean to be a powerful man? Now, every man's got their own definition, but we have some universal definitions that we use and we toss around internally with our guys. And I know guys listening to this, alumni, of course, you guys can, but the rest of you, if you haven't been through one of our programs, you can't see the private community. We don't show it because obviously we want it to keep everybody's boundaries and respect everybody's privacy because they're sharing so many great things and so many great men in there. But as you listen to this and think about yourself, the gap between who you are now, again, I'm going to use relationship, marriage, and relationship as an example. You can use this in any area, right? But I'm going to warn you as guys, businesses are default, right? So if you're going to business, but your marriage isn't great, go back to marriage, right? Don't go to the safe space. Be courageous, be bold. And as we think about this, Tim, and we talk about it, is what are those attributes that you want to accentuate? So I know for me, when I look at where I am now, today, right, I'm far from perfect, which I know is a shock to you, Tim, but probably everybody else that listens to this podcast actually knows that. I'm far from perfect. And so when I look at the gap of Doug Holt today, where Doug Holt wants to be, right, part of that is being more decisive in my relationship. Right? Being more decisive. And the reason I want to be more decisive as my attribute is to provide more security and foundation and leadership within my family. Because I'll abdicate some of those decisions because I don't care. Right? It doesn't bother me what we do on Saturday. We'll go for a hike, go for a bike ride, go out to get food, do this, do that. It's good. I pretty much have 100% control of my life and my schedule. So on a Saturday, I don't care. But I think that gap is, for me, is being able to go, this is what we're doing as a family. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to do it. And here's what I need everybody to do. Aaron, I need you to pack a lunch for everybody. I need you to get the kids' clothes ready. We're going sledding, what have you. That's the gap as I see it today. Right. I can also be more fun, right? Take on that persona of being the CFO we talk about a lot, the chief fun officer in my home. And really take that on. And so as I sit here and think about this, Tim, these gaps, as we identify them, are really our true personas. Right? They're easy for us to go in through. As you know, in business, I'm extremely decisive, to the point of annoyance to a lot of people. I make a decision, I just go. I don't stop to think about it. I don't stop to warn everybody. I don't stop to tell everybody. I just move forward. We always go ready, aim, fire, right? And you always joke that I just fire and stop. I don't even ready to aim going through it.
I haven't loaded the gun.
Yeah, it just doesn't. But in my relationship, it's different, right? But why? So we talk about this concept of the other you, right? Actors have this. There's been tons of books written about it. Books way back when, where from Niccolò Machiavelli, The Prince talks about this, to Todd Herman's alter ego effect of stepping into these other personas. Actors have been doing it forever. Stepping into this other persona. It's not really fake it till you make it. It's really identifying the attributes that you have that you want to accentuate, but also identifying those attributes you want to get rid of, right? It's another part of the exercise we didn't do with the team today, of really figuring out, that ideal husband in this example that I want to be, what is he not doing? What is he doing more of? What is he doing less of? Right? That comes with this too. I know since you talk to so many of the men, they get, they talk to our advisors, and our advisors are alumni. They get on the phone with the guys and just answer questions and make sure they're a good fit and that we can help them. But as you talk to these guys, I know you've shared with me, a lot of these guys just aren't being decisive, right?
Yeah, there's a few problems, really. I say problems. Look, the reality is, as you're leading the men, the listeners, viewers, whatever, through this exercise, in order for anyone to identify a trait that they would like to work on, that, the C is missing, let's say, that's within the gap, that's got to exist, right? You've got to know that it's an actual thing, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be in your reality, right? In order to recognize, I want to be more decisive, you've also got to recognize that you're being indecisive.
Mm-hmm.
So the point I'm making here is, when I say there's problems, the guys have been indecisive. Honestly, I think a lot of the guys have become so jaded by thinking that what everybody else wanted was for them to go and kill it in business. And then when they realize, hang on a minute, they start to save everybody, save their staff, solve all the problems, because that gives them significance. Because at the end of the day, they're giving so much to the business, they stop working out. They stop looking after themselves. They start to feel lethargic. They start to feel anxious. They start to feel frustrated at themselves. 5 agonies, no man's land, right? And it's very difficult in that place for somebody to then walk in through the door and be a loving, energetic husband. I mean, you can, using this, what we're talking about. And the reality is, in order for you to really, and you said something earlier, in order for you to flick that switch, focus on relationships for sure. Don't go to business, and maybe even focus on yourself too. Because I think by focusing on yourself, what are those characteristics that you would love to embody, right? When you were really floating through life, happy, go lucky, feeling great, chances are you were this guy when you met your wife. Chances are you embodied a lot of these characteristics back then, and you just lost touch with them. That doesn't mean to say that it isn't who you are. It is a part of you that you just have stopped using. It's kind of like, and I use this analogy a lot, I love it, the whole idea of the vision that you see for yourself, who you see yourself to be. It is a reality. Your head is a reality. And it's as unique to you as your fingerprint, right? And you just get to choose it. And a real shortcut, instead of thinking you've got to go through tons of different systems and tons of different books and everything else to change who you are, and it's going to be really difficult and you've got to completely change it. No, you can actually just set it up in a way whereby you can embody it. Maybe use a trigger, right? First thing is to get clear. Okay, well, what is the gap? When was a time when I was like this? Because there was a time you were like this. Otherwise, it just would be completely out of your reality. Like I said, you just wouldn't realize it. So, there was a time when you were like this. Write that down. What did that time look like? How did you walk? How did you dress? How did you feel? What did you do? Right? And then what can you start doing today? Maybe it's as simple as you finish work earlier. Do you know what? Well, finishing work at 5 and I'm going to have more energy. I'm going to go pick up some, I don't know, whatever you might have picked up on the way home, flowers or dinner or whatever. And I'm going to walk in through the door and I'm going to surprise my family and I'm just going to have fun tonight. We're going to watch a movie. My phone's going to be away. You can do that tonight. Super simple. Doesn't mean you might not fight the urge to check your phone. Doesn't mean you might struggle to be present completely. But the more you work this muscle, the stronger it becomes. And the point I'm making here is you don't need to wait. Oh, well, I've got to get this in place and that in place and the other. No. If we've gone through exercise in the past, if I had a gun to your head, what would you do? Well, you do it, won't you? There's been other exercises. Doug talks about triggers. You could leave the office, change your clothes, tap something above your office door, so you get out of one mode and into another mode. Circling back on relationships, I'm the same. I can be very easygoing at times. Maybe hard to believe, but I can be very easygoing at times. That works against me in my relationship because it comes across as indecisive. It comes across as being passive. It comes across as being disengaged. So I just start to share an opinion. And it's working great. It's producing boundaries. Doesn't mean it's always what Amelia wants to hear, but I'm not doing it for something for her to hear. She's asked my opinion, so here it is. So anyway, guys, I think this is a great exercise. If you've been driving, come back to this. Don't skip back it. Don't skip past it. If you're doing this, great. Pause it. Rewind it. Get clear on it. Write this down. And make it easy to win. Go into the Facebook community. Talk about this. This gets posted in there. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment. Be involved in a conversation around this. We'll get involved with you. It's a lot easier than you think. A lot easier. The only resistance that you will face is internal resistance. And as the great Marcus Aurelius would say, I'm loving Stoicism, by the way, the impediment to action becomes the action. So the obstacle is the way, right?
Yeah, you get to choose your hard. And I love all this, and I almost don't want to add anything because that's a perfect ending point. However, what I think when I've talked to men about this, right? How do you do this, right? How do you get this? You mentioned it, Tim, I'm going to call them rituals, but you mentioned triggers. I'm doing it. I remember when I played competitive soccer, my version of competitive, right? Football for you guys anywhere else outside the US. But when I played, a lot of guys had rituals. When they had chalk, I used to touch the chalk line, right? And do it, rub the chalk on my fingers. Guys do it all the time. Wear the same shirt. I had a guy I played with, was an amazing player. And he would always go to the goal line where the goal is and grab chalk and rub it on his cleats. And he was a great goal scorer, right? He just put the ball in the back of the net like no other. And they had rituals. And one of the things that would happen for him, and I'll use myself as an example too, for him is he changed. He was so quiet and laid back, smoked weed, et cetera, et cetera. But when he got in the field, he was ferocious, right? When I would get on the field, I get my ritual. I had a saying, there's no such thing as a 50-50 ball, right? If that ball is between me and another guy, it's mine. And I was adamant about it. And I would win it, right? It was really the way it worked. There's no question. I changed my persona, right? And just as easy, any guys listening to sports can relate to this, right? You're on the court, basketball court, or wherever you are. When you stepped onto that playing field, you changed, right? A different man embodied you, or a different spirit. And for a lot of you guys in business, if it's a sales negotiation, for you guys that are good at sales, you embody something different. You can do the same in other areas. You get to be decisive. We take the men through an exercise to deal with your shadow. That's an altered persona, right? That is a different version of this. That's the opposite of what we're talking about, in the sense of not where you're going towards, but where do you retract to and go through? And it's a powerful exercise that men go through in the activation method. And so in the first couple of weeks, they go through that and they get a chance to see what's going on for them. So guys, it's really important you take action, right? I can guarantee you right now that The man that your wife wants is a guy who takes action. Guarantee it. Never, ever heard a woman say, man, I really wish my husband would not take as much action. I wish he'd be less decisive and him and haw and things. Never have heard that. You know, my wife coaches women, so I get to hear the other side of this all the time, which you guys can imagine. So gentlemen, take action, right? Get into the Facebook group, post what you're finding. It's one thing to sit here and listen to this. It's another thing to stop, think about it. It's even greater to write it down. You have a kinesthetic connection, putting pen to paper, pencil to paper. But even better than that, and a lot better, is sharing, public declaration of what's going on. And that's what I'm going to invite you to do, right? All of you. If you're an alumni, share it in the alumni network. If you're not yet, go into the free Facebook group and share it there. Only thing stopping you is fear of what other people are going to think of you. But by declaring it publicly, you will step much quicker into this other persona, this other man. So gentlemen, as always, want to thank you for being here with us. We absolutely love it. If you've been with us for a while, please go ahead and leave a rating wherever you're listening to this, right? As we push things and get things out there, we want to make sure other men just like you have an opportunity to join in the conversation. We really enjoy it. And of course, if it's your first time being with us, well, of course, you probably don't know, but if you go over to thepowerfulman.com/bonus, that's thepowerfulman.com/bonus, you can get that Reignite cheat sheet. It's our way of giving you something just to try, no strings attached. Check it out, get the download, actually work the methodology, as you always hear me talk about. Do the work. This is not educational masturbation, guys. Don't just listen to this and go on to the next thing. Actually try it. Try it for yourself. Make sure it works. We got tons of testimonials. Hundreds of men have used these things successfully to change their marriages and change their lives. We want the same thing to go on for you. So gentlemen, as always, have an amazing, amazing rest of your day. Take some action, and we'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.